welcome to this video. I'm Marcus Hayes, and today I'm heading down to my other garage where I hear my good friend John is waiting with a very, very old Ford that he's just added to his ever-changing fleet. Right, so I'm around the garage and it's turned into a bit of a car meet. I'm here with John.
Hi there.
And also Aussie Pete, who I haven't seen for a while. Welcome to the channel.
G'day, mate.
Now, as I mentioned on the way down, John has just added another car to his fleet in the shape of this Ford Prefect. Such a cool shape. Still got the original 1100 and something cc engine, you said?
72.
Side valve engine. Got the old school dynamo. I thought it was quite cool that the radiator fan's on the dynamo, whereas normally it'd be on a water pump on the engines that I know about. But yeah, such a cool car. 1953. Yeah, really old. John was telling me that a lot of it's actually made of wood. This is all wood, wooden floors. But yeah, really cool. Now, John has been talking about possibly putting a Z-Tech in this, so it looks like I'm getting roped into another project, but Aussie Pete was saying Chevy V8 would be better.
Certainly be faster.
This engine does run, but there was a bit of a blow from the manifold, and basically the exhaust and the inlet is on the same side of the engine, so it's all one gasket, and this is the exhaust and inlet all in one lump. Such tiny ports. Yeah, basically that goes on there and then the carb sits on top. But yeah, so now John's got to get another gasket for it. The wheels are really tall, but they're really thin, which is obviously typical of the period. Right, let's have a look in the back. Cheeky little ashtray on the door card. All this trim around here is made of Bakelite. John was telling me that this isn't the original upholstery. This was actually made out of a sofa. Got to get in, haven't I?
I didn't do it. These heads that.
Oh, proper old school, man. This has got to be the oldest car I've ever sat in. That dash is so cool. Yeah, look, the actual windscreen lifts up. That's your aircon. Check this for a bonnet release. How cool is that? So yeah, John tells me that this one might be staying in his fleet for a while. So yeah, I'm really interested to see what he does with it. And obviously I'll keep you all posted. Don't sell it. Now, Aussie Pete has come down in this British Racing Green Morris Minor van that you've owned since
77.
1977. Yeah. And what year is it?
It's a 69.
1969. Good number, that, 69. Yeah, really cool. Again, I don't know anything about these, really. I know you can get them sideways in the wet. Yeah, really cool. Look at that. Gets used as a van as well, which is good to see. Now, that's not original, is it?
No. I made that up myself from my breakdown rescue days.
That's proper jump cable, that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pete was just telling me that this originally would have had a recess here, which, believe it or not, would have been for a dog bowl for a police dog. Yeah, so the back of this van came from a police vehicle. All right, so onto the engine bay of this Morris Minor. I'll let Pete tell us about the engine. So you're saying it's an A-series engine,
It's
right?
an A-series. It started out as 1275 cc's.
Yeah.
I originally built the engine to go into a hill climb car. I put it into this. A 340 cam was swapped for a 276, which made it a bit more traffic friendly. Converted it to unleaded, set of pipes on it so it'll breathe a bit better.
The manifold, yeah?
Yeah, the exhaust manifold there.
I noticed it's running twin SU carbs.
Twin SUs,
Yeah. Now, I should mention actually that Pete's a bit of an expert when it comes to these really, really old cars, and he actually runs a company called Stone Age Motors, and I'll leave his contact details in the description. If you've got a really, really old car like this and you need someone proper to work on it, give him a shout. Two really, really old, really, really cool cars around the garage today, so.
Well.
bit later on in the day, and with John and Pete now gone, it's time for me to crack on with a couple of bits on MORED. As you can see, I've done a little bit more sort of prepping for paint on this inner wing. Put some more seam sealer around where the welding was done. I'm going to do another load of sealer before I give it some more etch primer, and then I'm just going to satin black it. One thing I haven't showed you yet is I've done a bit of sealing and painting on the inside of these kick panels. Obviously this panel was replaced both sides when she had all her welding at Clump Fab recently. Yeah, I literally just threw loads of sealer over all the welds and in the corners and that. Now I've got the bandits on the back of MORED now, which looks so good now that I've dropped the rear end another ½ inch, but it is a bit close. It rubs on this side. I still need to put some new bearings on the half shafts because one of the bearings isn't on fully, so it means that this wheel sticks out a little bit further. But yeah, I'm gonna make a little bit more clearance. I put some fresh tyres on these bandits, Nankang NS2R semi-slicks, and those tyres were supplied and fitted by Southall Discount Tyres in Southall. Now it's a very uncommon size, you know, not a lot of cars nowadays come with 13-inch wheels, but they are able to order them in and they were delivered the next day, and then I just took the wheels down to them and they fitted them. I'll leave links to Southall Discount Tyres website and their Instagram in the description of this video. Alright, so obviously I haven't actually bolted it on yet, but it seems that this doesn't have enough adjustment to actually work on these rear arches. Yeah, obviously if you could cut this and then, you know, even cut it a little bit or cut it right down here and then move that down, then it might work. Oh well, I have to do it with a hammer then, eh? That's more fun anyway. And this arch is definitely one of the next things I'm going to be getting Chris at Clump Fab to sort out for me. Oh, it's worth noting as well that Chris has now sorted out an Instagram for Clump Fab, so I'll leave a link to that in the description along with his email address. Get in touch with him if you need any fabrication work doing. Not sure if that would have made any difference yet, but let's bolt the wheel on and see. Definitely a little bit more clearance. It's still very tight, but I was literally only able to get the tip in before. Now if I force it I can get my finger in there. Yeah, I think it's safe to say I better not go any further. The metal is starting to split. Right, so before I put the wheel back on, I'm going to repair the arch. Don't try this at home. Normally if I'm going to do a bodge like this, I would at least, you know, clean up the rust and get rid of the loose, but you know, this is going to be getting welded soon, so I'm not even going to waste any time. I'm just going to slap it on. Yeah, this fiberglass filler's gone a bit funny. The lid was welded to the tub. I'll just let that go off and then give it some sort of sand. Don't think I've got a drill here, so I might have to do it by hand. I'm not looking for any sort of quality on this job at all, so. Alright, so that can stay like that for now. I probably will sand it down a bit better with a thing on a power drill, but I ain't got a drill here at the moment. Probably should have done the same bodge down here at the same time, but never mind. But as I say, this is all going to be cut out. It's going to need inner and outer arches. And I think I've already got the panels in my garage somewhere. I think I need to get some new matte black paint. Stay at that. I definitely reckon I've gained a lot of clearance overall. And I'm not going to bother doing anything with this side because this side's already got way more clearance than the other side. So we'll just see how much it rubs on the way home. I did have to give the passenger side front arch a little bit of treatment. Yeah, I've done it in my work car park. I just used my bar, stuck that in there and then rolled it along. But when I get home this evening, if it's still light, or tomorrow morning, I'm going to crack on with this inner wing again. Left hand turn, will it rub? Yeah, it still rubs. Well, that arch only actually rubbed once on the way home, and that was because there was a bump as I turned. And what is my beautiful girlfriend Kat cooking? Fajita. Fajitas. Cause Mexico, innit? Hello, right, it's the next day and I'm around the garage with both of my Escorts. I've also got MOREDOOR's new ST170 engine out, which should have been fitted to the car by now, but that's not how things panned out. Today, I want to have a first proper look at the new SUMP for this engine. Now, as I mentioned in a previous video, I got this from a company called DYNO engines, and it does look really well made. This is definitely thicker material than the SUMPs that I've got fitted to both of my Escorts. One of the problems with those SUMPs is they leak, and basically this flange just gets distorted when you do it up. But yeah, this is a lot thicker, so that's one good thing about this SUMP. When I ordered this SUMP from DYNO engines, I thought it was going to be like the one they've got on their website, which is a modified original Ford SUMP. In this SUMP's favour, it does have that it's been made to accept a proper genuine Ford gasket. Now, the other problem with the SUMPs that I've got fitted to both of my Escorts at the moment is clearance between the SUMP and the cross member, also between the front of the SUMP and the steering rack. So if I am gonna, try and use this SUMP, despite the fact that it's not an original Ford cast alloy one that's been modified like I thought it was gonna be, then, there has to be more clearance on this SUMP in the key areas than the ones that are fitted to both of my Escorts. Now, despite the fact that both of the SUMPs on these Escorts are supposed to be the same SUMP, they're from the same company, and apparently they're made on a jig, the one that's fitted to Esther fits better than the one that's fitted to MORED. So I'm going to compare the new SUMP to the one that's fitted to Esther, because that's the one that fits best. Yeah, and also, under here, I can take my measurements without risking getting dirty. Whereas the underneath of MORED is covered in grease and oil and all sorts. Now, I have put a bit of tape over the company name for this SUMP. Yeah, ever since he threatened to take me to court for sharing my bad experiences with his parts with you guys, his name leaves a bit of a bitter taste in my mouth, so I'm not going to be mentioning the company name on this video. As I was saying, one of the key areas where I struggled to get clearance on MORED setup, not on this setup, was basically between the steering rack and the SUMP. On both of my cars, I've got spacers between the cross member and the chassis, which brings the engine and the cross member down. And that alone doesn't give you any extra clearance, but what it does do is gives you enough space for you then to be able to put washers in between the mount and the cross member here, or between the mount and this part of the mount, which then does raise the engine up without raising the cross member up, which does give you more space. Now, on this car, as I say, I didn't need to raise the engine up to give me any space between the steering rack, but I did fit the spacers to the cross member just to bring everything down lower so that I had a bit more clearance between my water rail and this lip on the bulkhead. But as I say, with MORED, I had to space the cross member down and space the engine up to increase that gap. But the biggest issue in terms of clearance on MORED's SUMP was between the SUMP and the cross member. And on MORED's SUMP, I actually got my mate Nath to cut the cross member out, and then obviously had to weld in some metal to reinforce it again. But on this one, it actually does clear. Now, in an ideal world, I want to find a SUMP that not only doesn't leak, but also fits my cars without having to space the cross member down or space the engine up. Now, weirdly, this SUMP and the one that's fitted to MORED, obviously, because they're the same SUMP, it steps down just where the steering rack is. So, if that carried on going straight, you'd have like this extra amount of clearance here. But yeah, I'm basically going to measure from the bottom of the SUMP where it meets where the steering rack is up to the gasket, try and measure it with the lip. And then I'll compare that to the measurements on the DYNO SUMP. I mean, it's kind of hard to measure because obviously I'm trying to include the lip as well, and the tape measure is at a funky angle, but it's as near as makes no difference to 100mm. It's slightly over 100mm, I'd say. If we compare that to the DYNO SUMP, even not taking into account the thicker flange, it's already more than 100mm. Now, as it turns out, another guy got in touch with me and said that he's designed his own rear-wheel drive Zetec SUMP. It's a complete new casting. It's not a genuine Ford SUMP that's been modified, but it is made of Ali, and he's actually sent me some measurements of his. So I'm going to now compare his measurements to, the SUMPs that I've got around me at the moment. So it looks like this other guy's design, you know, if he does end up getting them made, will be a lot better than any of these sumps that I've got here. So, yeah, I'm really excited to see if they actually come about. Now, obviously, that means that there's going to be yet more delays with MORED's new ST170 engine. And I know loads of you, you know, regularly get in touch to tell me that you're itching to see this engine in MORED. But yeah, for now, she'll just have to stay on the stand. But yeah, I really want to get it right, you know, I really want to find a sump that works, seeing as both of my cars are running these engines. Nothing like spray painting in the dark. Sweet. I'll satin black that tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, Motorsport Electronics are going to be tapping into the ME221 ECU fitted to Esther. So I'm going to continue the video then. But check this out. Kat's nearly completed a 1,000-piece Disney puzzle that I bought her. Whee! It's the next day. And I think Esther is ready for round 2 on the dyno. I've just got off the phone to Matt from Motorsport Electronics, who has just tapped into my ME221 ECU, and he updated the firmware and loads of stuff that I don't understand, so that I'm now running all the latest settings and stuff. Now, with the latest versions of the software, there's something called trigger filtering, I think it was called, where basically the ECU is able to filter out any electrical noise that might be interfering with any of the sensors. He also went through and calibrated my VVT for me, and yeah, Esther now revs up to 7k, which is what the limit is set to, and yeah, no problems at 5k like we were getting on the dyno. I want to send a massive thanks out to Matt for spending the time to get Esther's engine running right, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting back on the dyno. And this time I will remember to get Chris Todd to give Matt a ring while Esther's on the dyno, so yeah, we can get the best results possible from this setup. And I reckon that it's going to be good for me, Chris Todd and Motorsport Electronics if we can get Chris Todd really familiar with the software. And Matt was saying that he'll be able to actually explain to Chris what the easiest and quickest way is to tune these ECUs. Now, I've got to get to work soon, but there is one little thing I want to do first. It blows my mind that I've just had a bloke miles away hook up to my 46-year-old car and make it run better using the internet connection on my very old and smashed up mobile phone. But that's technology for you. So for once, we're ending the video on a positive note. Massive thanks again to Matt and the team at Motorsport Electronics for being so helpful. I will leave links to the Motorsport Electronics website and their social media accounts in the description of this video. Definitely get in touch with them if you're looking for an ECU for your car. Even someone like me who's an amateur, I've never ever messed around with, you know, fuel injection or ECUs. Using the Motorsport Electronics YouTube channel, all their tutorials on there, I was able to, you know, get the car running. Obviously, I didn't want to rev it up, you know, around my garage before I'd actually had a tuner look at it. If I did, I probably would have noticed that, you know, it was cutting out at 5k, and then could have maybe rectified the problem before I even went to the dyno. But, you know, that's the way it goes sometimes. I'm just happy that, you know, she seems to be running much better now. She starts better already. You know, Matt made sure that the VVT is working properly. So yeah, I'm really confident that we're going to get some good results when we get back on the dyno. If you thought this video was any good, please do give it a thumbs up and a share. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Click subscribe if you're new and you want to keep up to date with all my future uploads, and check the links in the description to my social media and my email address. But other than that, until next time, thanks for watching.